Cardano's DREPs are downvoting on the treasury withdrawal request for the Cardano Summit 2026 and also for the token 2049 representation of Cardano. Now, Cardano has been doing these Cardano summits since 2021, 2022, and they have been doing it almost every year. But for the last year, they changed things in a way that they made the process of treasury withdrawals decentralized and democratic, where the DREPs, the delegated representatives of Cardano, they vote on these requests. So it's not just that Cardano Foundation in itself or input-output group, they're just going to take money out of the treasury and they're going to invest wherever they like. They will place a request, and these DREPs, they're going to vote whether they agree with it or not. And based on the majority of the votes, the funds from the treasury are either approved or disapproved. And this started happening since last year. But in 2025, the treasury withdrawal proposal, it was accepted by majority of the DREPs, and they did go forward with the Cardano Summit. But now in 2026, these majority of the DREPs are down voting, which means they are disapproving the treasury withdrawal for the Cardano Summit and also for the representation in the token 2049. And we are getting some mixed response. So I'm going to give my take on it because it's actually quite interesting. So let's go ahead and see what's actually happening. So Cardano Foundation came forward with this tweet. The community support of last year's treasury proposal made the Cardano Summit 2025 possible. Building on that, Cardano Foundation and Emurgo have published a new treasury withdrawal proposal that is for the Cardano Summit 2026 and title sponsorship at Token 2049, both in Singapore this October. Now, Token 2049 event was supposed to be in Dubai, but because of the whole US-Iran war, this shifted to Singapore. So they announced this treasury withdrawal proposal, and so far, this is the result. Majority are voting no, and we still have maybe, I think, 30 more days or 20 more days for this proposal to be up there, and people can still vote. And the foundation committee, they also have to vote. There's like 7 members there, and majority have to vote yes. So most probably, as of this moment, it's very likely that this proposal is on the way of getting rejected. That means there won't be funds for a Cardano Summit 2026 or for Token 2049 representation or sponsorship. Now let's see some of these responses. So we have one DREP saying, as promised tonight, I will be downvoting every proposal asking for ADA from the treasury. It is madness to be aggressively spending in this type of market. Crashing the price of ADA will be catastrophic for the long-term outlook of the ecosystem. Being in the top tier by MC of crypto is far more important for adoption and usage than building a beautiful cathedral that disappears into irrelevancy. Now, the proposal is to withdraw almost $2.8 million in ADA from the treasury, which of course they would have to sell it in order to pay for all of the expenses. So that will be 2.8 million out of ADA. I don't think that's such a huge dent in the market cap, saying that Cardano is sitting at about, I think, $9 billion of market cap. Yes, it is at about $9 billion of market cap. So $2.8 million is not such a huge dent, but we are in a market where people are being quite sensitive to it. And the reason that they're being this sensitive is because in the last summit in 2025, their withdrawal request was of 1.4 million. Now it is double the amount. So here's another tweet. Why I'm provoked by the Cardano Summit withdrawal. In the last summit, the cost was 1.4 million. Revenue was 0.3 million. For this proposal, the cost will be 2.8 million. Revenue is expected to be at about 0.4 million. So the total cost will come about 2.4 million. With ADA at its lowest point, the Cardano Foundation proposed to double the summit budget. All this in a month after the Cardano Foundation bragged about year-on-year reduction since 2002. Now, this is what the Cardano Foundation said. The summit's main hub event has gone through a significant year-on-year reduction since 2022. So we have two perspectives here, two type of people here. Of course, we have people who are voting yes on this proposal because to them, the show must go on. These are where partnerships are made, relationships are built, and people are connected in the ecosystem, which is what the CEO of Emurgo said. And I think that tweet is really important. So after witnessing all of these disapprovals and community going, against this idea and against spending so much money on Cardano Summit 2026, which according to the community will not have a positive impact. They rather want this money to be spent on the network, in growing it and so forth. So here was the response of the CEO of Emurgo, because this treasury withdrawal request, it came from Cardano Foundation and also from Emurgo. So here was his response, and I'm gonna summarize it for you guys. He basically highlighted the importance of these events, what was achieved in the past events because of this, which it's not entirely wrong, and we do have an edge here, and that is that at the same time that this is happening, this is also a F1 Singapore weekend, which means every major financial institution that is sponsoring those events, tier 1 VCs and family offices will be in the city. That is a unique edge that we have here in this very event. And moving forward, this is the important part. So according to the CEO of Emurgo, these achievements that we have been talking about in the past few months, they were all achieved because of the Cardano Summit 2025 and the token 2049 in Singapore. That is, first of all, the USDCX, which is a tier 1 stablecoin asset. We have talked about it multiple times. Then we have Python Network, institutional grade pricing oracles. Layer 0, again, we talked about it multiple times. Critical omnichain interoperability that is supposed to unlock almost $80 billion of liquidity for Cardano. And we have Dune Analytics, essential data transparency for our builders. Now, these products and these developments were made possible because of these events, because they were able to negotiate a deal with them. And according to him, this event is supposed to increase enterprise adoption because that is the back room game. The industry day is designed to get our builders in front of the institutional players who are in town for the F1 and token 2049. Now, I'm all in for, to have a Cardano Summit because it's important. You have been doing it for the past years. If you don't do it this time, that gives out a wrong message that maybe you are out of budget. The community does not have confidence in the foundation in itself, which gives out a bad message. And I don't think that's what anyone here needs. But doubling the budget, that is wrong. You did it with $1.4 million in past year. Now you are requesting almost $2.8 million. And there is no direct return for that money from the conferences, from the summit, and it's not going to have a drastic impact on the value of ADA instantly. Of course, afterwards, because of these new products that are, that they make a deal with and they bring forward over the next year, of course, that has a solid impact afterwards, but it doesn't really have a short-term impact that the price is going to increase and so forth. So, in my opinion, increasing the budget, that is wrong, but you need to have the summit because if you don't, that gives out a wrong message. The amount that they're asking, that is pretty high, and that is something that Charles Hoskinson does not also agree with. So what Charles said is, honestly, I feel the funds could be better spent on funding a network of offices globally that operate like our Buenos Aires office with bi-weekly events, hackathons, community aggregation, and venture incubation. For the cost of this proposal, 5-6 offices could be run for a year, including staff. We regularly have events of 100, 202 a month in BA, with a Python being the most recent. We have to grow the base and spread the good word, not have expensive parties with the converted. So that's Charles' take on it, which is, of course, a pretty unique take. But honestly, here's my personal takeaway here. The cost that the Emurgo and Cardano Foundation is asking to withdraw from the treasury, it is pretty huge. It has doubled from the last year, which, there's nothing that explains why it has doubled, especially in a time when we are in some sort of a bear market and the narrative is down. In this time, if the budget was less, I think it would have more chances to be approved. So that's one thing. But you need to have the Cardano Summit because you have been doing it for the past years. Not doing it this year, especially because of the budget issues, that gives out a wrong message and that will have impact on every ADA holder. Next, I think every ADA holder, everyone who's interested in Cardano is part of Cardano. I think they should be proud of this whole system, that we actually have a democratic, decentralized voting system where if you say no, it doesn't happen. You should be happy that they have made up this system where they are asking you for the funds. I mean, we should be proud that we are the ones who are making decisions regarding the treasury. And this treasury is not some sort of pre-mine here. This treasury is built up because a portion of the unlocked ADA, almost 20% of it, it goes towards the treasury. And we have 80% that gets unlocked that goes to the delegators, the pool operators. And a portion of the fees go into this treasury. And that's how this treasury is built. It's not built from a pre-mine or anything else. But on the other hand, Ripple has their Swell event, which is an equivalent of Cardano Summit that we do every year. Ripple has its Swell event almost every year, and it doesn't really have a good impact. Almost every time that Ripple has the Swell event, the price of XRP falls, which is something that we have witnessed in the past years. But they still go forward with it. They still have the event. And who pays for that event? Who pays for the Ripple Swell event, which is quite a costly event? That is the Ripple itself, because they gave themselves a bootload of pre-mine. Ripple is still the largest holder of XRP. They have billions of dollars in XRP because they gave themselves that in the pre-mine. And they don't have to ask anyone else, to clear the funds for the Ripple Swell. They just take it from the pre-mine because they have billions of dollars and they don't mind taking out $1-2 million from that for the event. But in Cardano, I think you should be proud that we have this process where we are able to vote on these things. So that's my take. I think the budget should be less, but I think we should at least have the Cardano Summit, and we also should have representation in the Token 2049 event, because if we don't, that will be quite embarrassing and it will give out a very wrong message. But yeah, that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next video shortly. So stay tuned.